History is often a detective story, a puzzle of scattered clues left behind by time. Our story begins on an island that glitters in the Aegean Sea, a place many now know as Santorini. Today, it is famous for its stunning white villages clinging to cliffsides overlooking a deep blue bay. But this beauty hides a violent past. That bay is, in fact, a caldera, the vast, water-filled crater of a volcano. Thousands of years ago, this island was called Thera, and it was not a crescent but a single round landmass. At its heart slumbered a colossal volcano, a sleeping giant that shaped the lives of everyone who lived in its shadow, unaware of the devastating power brewing deep beneath their feet. This wasn't just any volcano. It was a force of nature that would one day unleash a cataclysm of almost unimaginable scale. Before the catastrophe, Thera was a vibrant and prosperous place. Imagine a bustling port town, its streets alive with the sounds of merchants haggling, sailors calling out to one another, and artisans chipping away at stone or painting colorful frescoes. The people who lived here were part of a magnificent civilization we now call the Minoans. They built sophisticated multi-story houses with advanced plumbing systems and decorated their walls with breathtaking art. These weren't primitive people huddled in huts. They were a cultured, wealthy, and technologically advanced society, a shining light in the Bronze Age world. Their city on Thera, now excavated and known as Akrotiri, was a jewel of the Aegean, a testament to their ingenuity and success. The volcano was an ever-present feature of their landscape. For the Minoans of Thera, it was simply part of their world, a mountain that gave them fertile soil for their vineyards and a dramatic backdrop for their daily lives. They likely had myths and stories about the mountain, perhaps seeing it as the home of a powerful god. There is evidence that smaller earthquakes and emissions of gas preceded the main event, signs that the giant was stirring from its slumber. We can imagine the islanders feeling the ground tremble, seeing smoke drift from the peak, and wondering what these omens meant. Little did they know that these were the final warnings before an eruption that would not only destroy their home, but also send shockwaves across the entire ancient world. The city of Akrotiri, often called the Minoan Pompeii, gives us an incredible window into this lost world. Because it was buried in ash, it was preserved in extraordinary detail. Archaeologists have uncovered streets, buildings, and countless artifacts, from pottery to furniture, all frozen in time. Unlike Pompeii, however, no human remains have been found in Akrotiri. This suggests that the people had enough warning to evacuate the city before the final, devastating blast. They packed their most valuable possessions and fled, hoping to one day return. They left behind a ghost town, a perfectly preserved snapshot of their lives, just moments before the end, a silent witness to the impending doom. So, who were these remarkable people, the Minoans? Their story is centered on the much larger island of Crete, just over 100 kilometers south of Thera. Here, they built one of the world's first great civilizations. They were not warriors like the later Mycenaeans of mainland Greece. They were artists, engineers, and above all, masters of the sea. Their power did not come from conquering armies, but from a vast and sophisticated trading network that stretched across the entire eastern Mediterranean. They built magnificent palaces like the one at Knossos, which were sprawling complexes filled with art, workshops, and grand ceremonial halls, centers of both political and religious life. The Minoans were a thalassocracy, a maritime empire, and the sea was their highway to wealth and influence. Thera was critically important to the Minoans. Think of it as a vital stepping stone, a crucial outpost in their trading empire. Its strategic location made it the perfect harbor for ships sailing north to mainland Greece and east towards the coast of Asia Minor. It was a place where goods, ideas, and cultures met and mixed. Ships laden with Cretan pottery, olive oil, and wine would dock in Thera's port, trading for metals, timber, and other resources from distant lands. This made the city of Akrotiri not just a provincial town, but a cosmopolitan hub, a rich and thriving center of commerce that played a key role in the Minoan economic machine. Its prosperity was a direct result of its connection to the great civilization of Crete. The art they left behind tells us so much about their worldview. The frescoes, discovered in Akrotiri, are full of life and movement. We see graceful dolphins leaping through waves, fishermen proudly displaying their catch, and elegant ladies in elaborate dresses. One of the most famous scenes depicts a grand naval procession with ornate ships sailing between coastal towns. This art is not about war or kings boasting of their conquests. It is a celebration of nature, the sea, and the vibrant pageantry of life. It shows a people who were deeply connected to their environment, who saw beauty and wonder in the world around them, from the lilies blooming in the fields to the swallows darting through the sky. This connection to the sea defined their existence. The Minoans were brilliant shipbuilders and navigators, and their fleet allowed them to dominate the Aegean without the need for massive fortifications. Their palaces on Crete are famously unwalled, suggesting they felt secure on their island, protected by the power of their navy. This sense of security, this mastery over the waves, was the foundation of their civilization. It allowed their culture to flourish, their trade to expand, and their influence to spread. But their greatest strength, their reliance on the sea, would soon become their greatest vulnerability when the very ground beneath their feet and the sea itself turned against them in the most violent way imaginable. The eruption, which we now date to around 1620 BCE, was an event of terrifying proportions. It did not happen all at once. It began with earthquakes and a plume of ash, which likely prompted the evacuation of Akrotiri. Then came the main event, a cataclysmic explosion known as a Plinian eruption. A colossal column of superheated ash, gas, and rock was blasted more than 30 kilometers into the sky, into the stratosphere. The sound would have been deafening, a roar heard hundreds of kilometers away. For those nearby, the sky would have turned black as day became night, and a rain of pumice and ash began to fall, burying the island of Thera completely. This was not a simple volcanic eruption. It was one of the largest the world has ever seen. The climax of the eruption was even more terrifying. As the massive plume of ash and rock collapsed back down under its own weight, it created pyroclastic flows. These are essentially avalanches of hot gas and volcanic debris, moving at hurricane speeds and incinerating everything in their path. They surged across the sea, a churning, deadly cloud that would have instantly boiled the water. But the most destructive phase was yet to come. The emptying of the magma chamber beneath the island caused the entire center of the volcano to collapse inward, creating the vast caldera we see today. This sudden collapse displaced a monumental volume of seawater, generating a series of colossal tsunamis. Imagine giant waves, perhaps tens of meters high, racing outwards from Thera in all directions. They would have traveled across the Aegean at the speed of a modern jetliner. These waves would have slammed into the northern coast of Crete, the heartland of the Minoan civilization. Coastal towns, ports, and farms would have been obliterated without warning. Ships from the powerful Minoan fleet, whether at anchor in their harbors or out on the open sea, would have been smashed to pieces or swallowed by the waves. This single event would have crippled the Minoan navy, the very source of their power and protection, in a matter of hours. The sea, which had been their greatest ally, had become their ultimate destroyer. The immediate aftermath would have been a scene from a nightmare. The entire region was plunged into darkness by the thick veil of volcanic ash that blocked out the sun, potentially for days. This ash fell like a toxic snow across the eastern Mediterranean, covering fields and poisoning agricultural land, leading to crop failures and famine. The climate itself was affected, with evidence suggesting global temperatures dropped in the years following the eruption. For the survivors on Crete and other nearby islands, the world had been turned upside down. They faced a darkened sky, poisoned earth, and a sea that had just wiped out their coastal communities and their fleet. The golden age of the Minoans had come to a sudden and brutal end. The eruption of Thera was a devastating blow from which the Minoan civilization never fully recovered. While the palaces on Crete were not destroyed by the initial blast, the economic and psychological impact was immense. The loss of their fleet left them vulnerable. The tsunamis destroyed their coastal infrastructure, and the volcanic ash ruined their agricultural base. This sudden weakness opened the door for other ambitious powers. The Mycenaeans, the warlike people from mainland Greece, began to exert more and more influence over Crete. Within a generation or two, they had taken control of the palace at Knossos, and the unique Minoan culture began to fade, absorbed by its more aggressive neighbors. The cataclysm didn't just end a city. It triggered the decline of an entire civilization. The story of Thera's destruction may have an even more famous legacy. For centuries, people have been captivated by Plato's story of Atlantis, a legendary island empire that was powerful, advanced, and prosperous. According to Plato, the Atlanteans became arrogant and corrupt, and as a punishment from the gods, their island was swallowed by the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. The parallels are striking. A powerful island civilization with a great navy, destroyed by a cataclysm of earthquakes and floods. Many scholars now believe that the story of Atlantis is not pure fiction, but a distant, distorted memory of the real historical trauma of Thera's eruption and the subsequent collapse of the Minoan civilization. When we compare the two stories, the similarities are hard to ignore. The Minoans were a real Bronze Age sea power, just as the Atlanteans were described. Thera was a single, large island before the eruption, which destroyed its center, leaving a ring-like shape, reminiscent of Plato's description of Atlantis with its concentric rings of land and water. The disaster that befell the Minoans was a sudden and overwhelming catastrophe involving both the earth shaking and the sea rising up. Just as Plato wrote, it seems plausible that the tale was passed down through generations, first as history, then as legend, until the Greek philosopher Plato heard a version of it centuries later and used it as a moral tale in his own writings. Ultimately, the real story of Thera is far more compelling than any myth. The legend of Atlantis is a fascinating fable, but the Minoan cataclysm is real history, grounded in archaeology and geology. It's a story of real people, a sophisticated society whose world was literally blown apart by a force of nature. It's a powerful reminder of the fragility of civilization and the immense power of our planet. Exploring the buried streets of Akrotiri, we can almost hear the echoes of the people who lived there. This is not a search for a lost continent, but a connection to a real past, a story written not in myth, but in layers of volcanic ash, waiting for us to uncover and understand.